to or back to my channel. My name is Gabrielle and I'm a senior in high school. Today is a tutorial for these fishnet arm warmers. Here's like the top looks like this, and you can also make it longer, shorter, and you can make the holes bigger or smaller. I go through all of that in this tutorial. I do give exact numbers and rows of what I do and everything, just since we all have different size arms. I don't exactly know what your measurements are and what numbers are for you. Feel free to write in the comments down below any questions you're having, and I'll get back to you the best that I can. Now, let's get into this tutorial because I know you guys are all super excited to wear something like this. For this tutorial, these are the materials that you're gonna need. First up, we have some sort of yarn. These are the details of my yarn. I recommend the first time that you make this pattern using some sort of light colored yarn. I know it's definitely tempting to use black yarn, however, any dark colors like that may be harder to see and tell what you're doing, and I don't want you guys to get confused or frustrated. So I recommend making it first with a light colored yarn, and then once you know how to do it, then definitely go ahead and make it with black. Next, I am using a 3.5mm crochet hook. You guys can use whatever thickness of yarn and bigness of hook that you would like. I'll show you how to do it with whatever that you have. However, I do recommend using some sort of small hook, as that will make the stitches smaller and in a smaller line. As we're making fishnets, we kind of want to have thinner crochet work to accentuate the big diamond gaps. Next, you're gonna want some sort of needle to weave in your ends, some sort of stitch marker. I just use a safety pin, but if you have actual stitch markers, good for you. And of course, scissors. Now let's get started. So the first thing that we're gonna do is make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, wrap your yarn around your fingers and make a cross along the back. With your crochet hook, go underneath the first loop and then pull that back side forward and keep pulling it while holding the two ends. Then you can adjust the size of the loop to fit your hook and make sure it can glide along it. Then we're going to chain. To chain, we're going to yarn over, so bring your hook from the front down into the back of the yarn. And then as you pull through, turn your hook facing downwards and pull the yarn through the loop. That's one. Yarn over again, pull through. That's your second chain. They should look like little V's. 3, 4, 5. Continue crocheting until you have 55 chains, or the amount of chains that will extend from one armpit to the other when you stretch your chains. So once you have your chain, go ahead and chain 10. So that 10 more is the beginning of our first mesh hole. Count from the top of your crochet hook, 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So in that, we're going to make a single crochet. So insert your hook into that 15th stitch from your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. So there's our first little hole. Next, we're going to chain 10 again. Then we're going to count 5 more stitches to the left. So the one that we made a single crochet into does not count. Start at the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and insert your hook into that chain and make another single crochet. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. So now you can see we have 2 little holes. If you want your holes to be a different size, that's okay. So if you want them to be smaller, chain the amount that you want, but go over half the amount of stitches that you chained. So we chained 10, so we go over 5. If you want to chain 6, you can go over 3 stitches. All up to you. If you want yours to be bigger, you can chain 16 and go to the left 8 stitches. Totally customizable. So continue this all the way down the row where you chain 10 and then single crochet into the 5th stitch to the left. And I'll meet you at the end of the row. Alright, so I'm making my final single crochet, which is into my last chain. If you don't have 5 at the end, that's okay. You can single crochet into the last one, whatever it's at. Or you can undo the loops that you've made, and you can make sure that your chain is divisible by 5, since we're going over 5. Also, since I bet some of you have changed the number of chains or the number you go to the left, make sure that the number of chains that you make is divisible by the number that you're going left by. Okay, so to start our next row, chain 5. This will be half of the number that you normally chain. So if you chain a different number, chain half of your usual. Then flip your work to the left. And then we're going to make a single crochet into our first loop. So we're not going into any of the stitches. We're just going right through the loop and then yarning over and pulling it back under that loop. Yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. This is going to make our work more of a rectangle on the sides and more of a straight line. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead as normal, chain 10. Then find your next loop and make a single crochet underneath that loop. So that is our diamonds. So then chain 10 again. Find your next loop. Make a single crochet. And repeat this all the way down. Chain 10, attach it to the next loop. Chain 10, attach it to the next loop. And I'll meet you guys when you're at the end of the row. Okay, so I'm making my final single crochet into my last loop. Then I'm going to chain 5. And turn my work to the left. If your work is looking like curly and everything, so is mine. That's how it goes. When you put it on, it will stretch out and look amazing and beautiful. Okay, so once you chain 5, single crochet into your first loop. And make sure you're working into the loops of the second row. So this will be my next one. So then we're going to do the same thing, chain 10. And then we're going to attach it to our next loop. And then repeat that all the way down. Also, as you stretch this out, you can see it will turn into a beautiful diamond pattern. I'll meet you guys at the end of the row. Alright, so I did my final chain 10, and I just wanted to show you guys that I am single crocheting into the little hole that was made when we chained 5 and attached it onto our first row. So this is what my work is looking like, and I'm going to single crochet right into here. I know this can look a little bit confusing sometimes, and sometimes I confuse myself, but the way that helps me remember is I'll count how many holes I have across the bottom row and just make sure as I'm going with my rows that I have the same amount of holes on each row. That way I know I'm doing it right. So continue making rows until it has come down far enough on your chest that you like it. I just like mine to be really short, but it could definitely be cool as like a whole shirt. You could make rows all the way down. Definitely up to you guys here, so just continue making rows, and at the end of your rows doing the chain 10 into the little holes. Just continue that as you go. I'm gonna end mine after these just 3 rows that we just did, and I'll show you guys how that I do that. Alright, so once you've completed as many rows as you want to have, then I'm going to show you guys the way that I make room for like the head and your collar. So go ahead and chain 5, turn your work, and then I'm going to mark with my stitch marker. So it looks like I'm going to want 5 gaps in the middle to make room for my neck. Also, if you want it to be wider, you can leave more holes in the middle for your neck, but just count how many holes that you guys want to have surrounding your neck area for your head to fit through. Anyways, once you have that counted, I'll show you guys what to do next. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to mark the 4th hole from the right and from the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from the left side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. But I know that we're going to end up making another hole here because we have a little hole that we're going to chain into. So this is going to be 1, and then 2, 3, 4. And then that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing for our rows, but we're going to end them on the hole before the hole with the stitch marker. So once you have chained 5, slip stitch into that first hole that you have. Then chain 10, 1, 2. Then we're going to make a single crochet into the next hole. Chain 10 again, and make a final single crochet into the last hole before the stitch marker. Alright, once you have that complete, go ahead and chain 1, like so. Pull up your hook, and then I want you guys to leave enough to sew. So about the length from your hand to your elbow of yarn. Then continue and pulling that yarn up and make sure to tighten it. And then that is one side. For the other side, we're going to make a slip knot and we're going to insert it into the hole that does not have the stitch marker, but that is right next to it on the left side. So insert your hook underneath that hole and then yarn over and make a little single crochet. Go ahead and chain 10. And then make a single crochet into the loop to the left. Chain 10 again. And then make a single crochet into that little small hole. And you should have something that looks like this. Then go ahead and chain 1. Pull up enough to sew and cut off your yarn. So this is one of the front / back panels and you're gonna want 2. So go ahead and make another one, and you don't need to cut long strips on the other one, so when you pull up your yarn you can cut it about this length because we're just gonna end up weaving those ends in and we're just gonna sew with one of the sides. So go ahead and make another one of these, and then I'll meet you guys back for attaching them. Alright, so you should have 2 pieces all complete. So the way that we're going to sew these together is we're going to lay down our first one, which has shorter ties, and just kind of lay it out as flat as you can get it. Then you're going to take your second one and you're going to lay it the same way, so the chains are on the bottom, and lay it down over the top and line up the ends, and you can find your holes that are at the end and line those up too. Then you're going to, so I'm going to take my yarn needle and thread the long tail that I cut off, which is attached right here. And then I'm basically going to thread my needle through that first stitch on this piece and through the first piece on this one. Right now, I'm going to take my 2 ends here and just tie them together. And then that should get me pretty lined up, and then line up my holes here. And I'm just going to sew these 2 holes together, going through the knots at the top. That way, we will have our gap for our hole, for our head, and then we're gonna sew along the top here too. So these are like along the shoulders. Thread your needle through that first stitch, on your first panel of your top row, and then also on the back side, so that your hook is going through both pieces, the front and the back. And then just pull it through. Good. Then repeat that with each stitch. So go through both loops of your next chain on the front and then on the back, and pull it through again. And just continue this all the way down. Alright, so I just finished going along the top of one. Now I am going right through our single crochet that we made to attach our hole. So right through the middle here of our first one, and then through the middle on the back side. And then we just have the last gap to go. Make sure to sew only the first 5 chains along this last top, because you want to leave room for your arm to go through on the sides. On your last one, don't pull the loop all the way through, and then you can thread your needle underneath what's left of your loop, and then pull your yarn up and pull it tight. And then repeat that, go through the same 2 chains, pull your yarn through but not all the way, thread your needle through that loop that you made, and then pull it tight. And that creates a nice secure knot. And then go ahead and cut off your yarn about the length of your finger. So that is one of the sides. As you can see, that will leave room for our head if we sew along here as well. So fold that back how it normally is, leave that, and then let's find, so here's the safety pin. I'm just gonna go ahead and safety pin both loops together. I didn't move the safety pin, I just included my front panel with it. So make sure everything is lined up. So there's the end of my loops, and then also here. Here's my middle loops, here's my top loops. And as you can see, I have 2 threads coming out. So we want our sewing to begin 5 stitches up, because if you fold this out, it kind of makes a corner. And that first 5 is going to be part of the armpit. So we're just going to thread our yarn through here. We're not actually going to sew anything, just so that we can get it to the right starting place for our sewing. So just go ahead, take one of your pieces, and then you can just thread your yarn, your loop in and out. Until you have gone up 5 chains. And then pull your yarn through. Good. So now we have 5 chains left of that big loop, and we're gonna sew the rest together for the remaining 5 chains here and the 10 chains of the next loop. So line your pieces up, count 5 on the back loop, and then on the 6th is where you're going to insert your hook and start sewing your pieces together. And then insert your needle into the next chains of the front and back panels and sew your pieces together. Go through your single crochet stitch, and then the last 10 chains. Alright, once you get to the end, you should reach a thread, and I'm just going to tie a knot here. Or you can tie a knot the way that we did the last time. And then you can trim off any excess, but make sure you leave enough room to weave in your ends. And then now it's time to try it on and make sure it kind of fits. Alright, so as you can see, if we stretch this down over our shoulders, it's gonna look really cool. And then next we're going to add some length underneath the armpit and add the sleeves. So just make sure that there's enough room for your head to fit through the center, and that it will kind of stretch over your shoulders. Alright, so I just made one of the sleeves so that I could like write down what I did and then show you guys what to do for the other sleeve. But I thought I would try it on and show it to you guys so you guys have an idea of like what we're about to make. So we want it to be really tight so that it'll stretch onto our hands, so it'll look like this when you're making it. But don't worry, because when you put it on, it will expand. I don't know the right word. Anyways. So it should be nice and tight. So yeah, it'll look something like this. So we're gonna start out by chaining the amount that will go underneath your arm. So you're gonna probably want to measure that, and then we're gonna just go around in circles. Every other one skipping a hole so that it gets tighter onto your arm. And then once you get about here, then you can start just using, you can stop skipping the holes and just do that size all the way down the rest. Also, I like to wear it with like my thumb through one of the holes because it keeps this stretched out. Anyways, and then you're gonna repeat on the other side. So you guys are gonna start out with something that looks like this, and you're gonna wanna chain. So you're gonna attach your hook to the corner and chain the amount that it takes to reach the next corner, and then that will be like your sleeve, and then you just go around in circles all the way down your arm. Anyways, and I'll explain all to you guys while we go. And at the end, I might decide to do something with the top here, I'm not sure, probably not. I kind of like it like this. So yeah, as you can see, there might be like some holes that are bigger than others and smaller than others because that's like where we skip. And I think it looks cool like that. All right, so here's my deflated arm piece. And so this is what your sleeve is kind of gonna look like after you make it. And then we're gonna go ahead and go on to this other side. So if you unfold it, it should look, so here's my little head area. You should kind of have like this straight line edge. I mean, it's a little bit wavy and kind of curves that way. But if you put your fingers in the two corners, it should be kind of like a nice line. And that's going to be the top of your shoulder. And so we're gonna attach our hook into the corner and chain 10. And then we're gonna attach that chain to this corner so that we'll have a nice little circle that will look like this. So I chained 10 and then I have my circle. And then I just did rows off of that, slowly decreasing, and then once it really fit my arm, I stopped decreasing and just made the rest of the rows until it went all the way down my arm. And this is going to be different for everybody, so I'm just going to show you how I measured it on myself so that you guys can measure it on yourselves and make sure that it fits you. Make your slip knot, then attach your yarn into the corner where you should have a thread. There's not really a specific place, by the way. I'm just inserting it right under here. And then make a slip knot. So yarn over and pull your yarn through, and then through the loop on your hook. All right. Then I am going to chain 10. That was long enough for this to fit around my shoulder. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how that fits, but then next we're going to bring it to this next corner and slip stitch it closed. So if you insert your hook into the corner, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. If it's not long enough, go ahead and do some more chains. And then as I pull this up my arm, it is able to fit around here. And it's not too baggy or anything. All right, so next we're gonna start making our loops down our arm. Super exciting. So now what we're going to do, chain 10. After you have made the correct amount of chains for you, chain 10, and then we're going to go over 5 stitches, which should be where we have our little connect pieces. And so here I'm gonna make a single crochet connection at each of these stitches. Here, 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 okay? So right through this stitch and make a single crochet. So then chain 10 and then go right into here. And just roughly 5 stitches over. So then this is where we sew our 2 pieces together. You can just go anywhere into here. There's not really a specific spot for any of this. Single crochet, chain 10, make a single crochet, 5 stitches to the left, chain 10, make a single crochet, 5 stitches to the left, chain 10, go right into this corner stitch, single crochet. And then for me, I first tried chaining 10 and then inserting my hook 5 stitches left and inserting chain 10 and inserting into this loop, but I found that that was too loose around my shoulder. So definitely this is a trial and error as you go, just making loops and seeing how tight it is and if it fits you. But for me, I found that since I was too loose, I just ended up chaining 10. And inserting right into this next loop. So I did not end up making 2 more loops here. I ended up making only 1. And so in total I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes. And then when I tried this on, it did fit me. So if you need less holes, that's how I did. I just kind of skipped making it. And also, since this is underneath, so right where I chained 10 before, that's where my armpit is. No one's really gonna see this, so it's just gonna be a bigger hole than normal. And honestly, I think different size holes is kind of cool. So for the next 10 or so rows, there's a pattern that I've done to decrease the amount of holes I have. If I just go ahead and skip this hole and just single crochet into this hole, I have a weird loop that's just hanging around. So I didn't want that, but I still wanted to decrease the size of my arm. So what I did was, instead of chaining 10, I chained 5. And then I attached it to this next hole. And then the next row, I just skip over this chain 5. That way this is nice and straight and it won't like hang around like this would. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in order to make a decrease of the amount of holes that I have, I'll just chain 5 in the current row, and the next row skip over the chain 5, and it works better. Anyways, also if that's not making any sense, I apologize. Definitely ask me questions in the comments, guys. I know this can be a little bit confusing. I wonder if I could explain that any better. 7 rows fits my shoulder area, but it's not gonna fit the next part of my arm. So my next rows that I want to have less holes so it can be tighter on my arm. So I want to have less holes basically. And instead of skipping a hole, because that leaves different parts of the hole just flailing about, I decrease, which takes 2 rows. The first row I chain 5, and then the next row I skip the chain 5, and that creates a decrease. So I want to make decreases until I have 4 holes left. That is the amount that's tight on my arm. You guys might want to make less decreases or more depending on the size of your arms. So yeah, I'm going to make a chain 5 one time this row, and then next row I'm going to skip that chain 5. And the next row after that, I'm going to do a chain 5. The next row I'm going to skip that chain 5 and repeat that until I go from my current 7 holes to 4 holes. So that will probably take 8 rows to do that in total. Anyways, I'm just explaining what I'm doing, but everyone has a different size. So just do this to decrease when you need to. So continuously try this on your arm and make sure it fits. So after you do 1 chain 5, then chain 10 like normal, and then go ahead and attach that to your next loop. Chain 10, attach that to your next loop, chain 10, attach that to your next loop. Also, those are single crochets still. Chain 10, attach that to your next loop. Chain 10. Attach that to your next loop. This is my massive loop because of my armpit area. My next one is my spot where I chained 5. I'm just going to go ahead and skip over that. So I'm going to chain 10 and go ahead, skip that, go into your next loop. And just so I don't forget, I'm going to put a stitch marker on the loop that I just made so that I remember to put a chain 5 on the next row when I get there. So chain 10, and continue this all the way around to get to your stitch marker of chaining 10, attaching it to your next loop, chain 10, attach to your next loop until you get back to the stitch marker, and I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so I'm at the loop where I have my stitch marker, and I only chained 5 this time, and then I'm going to go ahead and single crochet to attach my yarn. So I just attached my chain 10 to the hole of the stitch marker, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the row where I chain 5 for my next decrease. So I'm gonna go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and attach that with my single crochet to the next spot. That way on my next row, I know to just skip over that completely and make a single crochet in the next row. This is going to make, so right now I have 6 holes, and so my next row I'll only have 5 holes. And then I'll do the same process for 2 more rows, that way I can get to my 4 holes, and then I can stop worrying about this and I can just chain 10 all the way around and around and around until it's long enough to go all the way down my arm. Alright, so I chained 10 and attached my yarn all the way around, and now I have approached where I chained 5, and so just like the last time, I'm gonna go ahead and just skip over that hole. I'm not gonna go into it. I'm gonna go into the next one and make my single crochet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and mark this spot again because I don't want to forget to do my chain 5 for the last time. But I'm gonna go ahead and just try this on and show you guys, because I feel like this part can be a little confusing, and I'll just show you guys what this is looking on me, and you guys can see what it's looking on you. Alright. So to try it on, you're gonna find where you have your hole for your head. You can go ahead and put that on if you want. This is my long sleeve. You can tell we're gonna be making a bunch. But for this one, you can make sure, trying to get your finger through there, and slide it on. You're gonna want this open side to be like on the bottom and this part to be on the top. Anyways, so as you can see, it's like a little bit scrunchy. That's why we need to make decreases for the holes so that they'll kind of fit. It's kind of looser, and we don't want that. We want it to be nice and tight. So that's why we're trying to get rid of like that extra hole and make it nice and tight on our arm. Also, it will be stretched out long ways as well, and it should look like, I do not think I would be doing this on the internet one day, but here we are. So yeah, you're definitely gonna want it to get like situated, but it will eventually look very cool. There's hope. So it is looking scrunchy, but it will stretch out and everything on both sides, and it's gonna look really cool. In order to get rid of holes, just chain 5, and the next time skip over the chain 5, and that's how I delete my holes. If you have a different way of doing it and it makes sense to you, definitely share it in the comments. And if you were not understanding something in this tutorial but then you figured it out, someone else might be having that same confusion, and it might be helpful for you to kind of let people know your epiphany or whatever it is in the comments, because I actually am not teaching anyone directly, so I don't know what is confusing and what to explain, unless you guys can ask some questions, and that would be very helpful. I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. So yeah, basically keep trying it on like I'm doing right now. Be like, oh, it's too small, it's too big, and you can always add or subtract holes. And once you actually get it, like say once you get it tight around this area of your arm, you can just continue that same width, or at least I can. I don't have massive biceps, so it's like the same size as the rest of my arm. Once you get it nice and tight on your arm, then you can just make chain 10s and not worry about chaining 5 and skipping and all that stuff. So yeah, once you get the size that fits your arm, just continue that with a bunch of circles. I don't mark the ends or the beginnings of my rows, but I do count how many holes on the way down. That way I can hopefully get the same length for this side. All right, back to the tutorial. All right, so go ahead and go all the way around until your stitch marker, and I'll meet you guys back. And what that means is chain 10, attach to your next loop, chain 10, attach to your next loop until you reach your stitch marker, and I'll meet you guys back. All right, so if this is already a great size for your arm, just continue chaining 10 and attaching, and just do that a bunch of times until you try it on and it's long enough to reach your wrists or however long you want the sleeves to be. However, if this is still baggy-ish on your arms, go ahead and chain 5. Amazing. Then single crochet that into your next loop, and then go ahead and continue as normal. And also you can remove the stitch marker. So chain 10, and then I'll meet you guys back when you reach this chain 5 area. All right, so I am back at my chain 5 and I've chained 10, and then I'm just gonna skip that and go right into my next loop and make a single crochet. Then I'm gonna count how many holes I have going around. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is how many is nice and tight around my arm. So I'm done making my decreases, and I'm just gonna go ahead and chain 10, attach it to my next loop, chain 10, attach it to my next loop, all the way around and around and around and around until I have, for me, 21. So in order to count, sometimes I have to stretch the loops out, otherwise I can't really tell. But until I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 21 all the way. Or if you just want to count straight up, that would be half of 21, 1, 2, 3. So 21 would be like, I don't know, 10 to 10 and a half of these. All the way down. That's how many fits my arm, but definitely that's not gonna be the same for everyone. But if you think you're about the same size as me, or you're making this for someone who's like the same size as me, again, I'm a 17-year-old girl, I'm 5'2", pretty tiny, I would say, then you can use my measurements and it'll probably fit since this is pretty stretchy. So I'll meet you guys back once you have your sleeves long enough to like reach your wrist or however long you want it and you want to end it. All right. So continue doing your chain 10s or your decreases or whatever you need to do for your arm. And I'll meet you guys back. Hi everyone, I just wanted to hop in here really quick and remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you guys are enjoying this tutorial so far. Also to remind you, in case you're feeling like bleh about the project and you want to make it another whip, no. This is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna look amazing. You're gonna have a whole outfit planned for this. Patience, you will get through the tutorial, you'll finish it, and it will be worth it. And make sure to like the video and definitely comment anything, any struggles you're having, questions, concerns, give me some feedback, anything, all is welcome. Just please make sure that it is kind and respectful. Also, I'm 17, I'm trying my best to explain this to you. It was a little bit confusing to show you guys this on camera. Also, like, when this is not on my body, it's super deflated and wrinkly, and it's more difficult to show you guys certain things. So bear with me, I apologize. I hope this helps in some sort of way. And yeah, good luck on the rest of the project, and I believe in you. All right, so we're nearing the end, guys. At least for the first sleeve for you all. So here is the end of my sleeve, and it's at a length that I like. So in order to finish it off, we are just, so see how it's kind of, I don't know, I want my sleeve to be nice and circular and just straight. So what we're gonna do is we're going to chain 5 and attach it to the next loop, chain 5 and attach it to the next loop all the way around, and that should create a nice and straight edge. So chain 5, make a single crochet under the next loop, chain 5, attach it to the next loop, chain 5, attach it to the next loop. I only have 4 loops, so my next one is my last. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you get to your last one, you can just go ahead and make a slip stitch into your single crochet that you used to begin this. So insert your hook into that stitch, and then yarn over and pull through and through the loop on your hook. Then to complete the sleeve, chain 1 and pull up your yarn about the length of your finger and go ahead and cut that loop in half, and then you can pull tight. So that is a nice straight end to the sleeve. And then go ahead and do the same thing for your other sleeve, and you should get a nice pile of crochet. So meet me back when you have finished all of that to weave in the ends. Alright, so to weave in the ends, I'll show you guys what I do. Also make sure to remove your stitch markers, I'm forgetting. So you're gonna find all of your loose ends and start one at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just thread your needle. And then it's kind of super tedious, especially for this project, because we don't actually have like anything to weave it through except for our chains. So it can get really annoying, and they might poke out again later, but this is how I weave in my ends. So I just kind of weave my hook through different loops along the chain, if that makes any sense. Right now I'm going through the back loops, but it doesn't actually matter. You can go through whatever loops you want. And after I've gone through at least like 5, then I just pull my needle through, and then I'll kind of pull it tight and then cut off that end as close as I can to the chain. And then I'll just pull it tight like this, and it's really hard sometimes to make sure not to get these ends that poke out. But if you just keep pulling it tight, then it might work out. Maybe trim it some more, give it a little haircut, and then it's really not noticeable. So just continue doing that for all of your ends, and then I'll see you guys back. So here's the finished product. Obviously I'm not really wearing an outfit that I would wear this with, but I could definitely see this with some matching leg warmers. I do have a tutorial on my channel for baggy leg warmers. Thank you all for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to my channel for more amazing tutorials from me, and also just to let me know that you guys do enjoy the stuff that I post and that I should continue posting, because I'm trying to grow my channel and see if this has any potential. Also, make sure to like the video and comment if you have any questions, any suggestions or advice for other people, or any video ideas for future tutorials, or just some fun crochet challenges. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.